Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the best Apophis Lance build for RAFA in Borderlands 4. This is part of the People Pleaser skill tree, and what's powerful about this is we get a lot of buffs to our overall gun damage. As well, we have our action skill back really quickly. It takes about 15 seconds for us to be able to regain it, so we can constantly keep using it and getting all the overdrive benefits, which we can stack up some pretty crazy stuff on this build. Now this build will work on new game as well as into our Ultimate Vault Hunter 5 mode. Now, there's two different ways we can utilize the action skill. So that one was with fire damage. We're going against bosses with very high fire resistance right now, so you can swap this out and take off your Capstone skill, which is going to apply that incendiary damage. You can take that off and just use the regular old action skill, and you can utilize it really quickly because we already got our action skill back there. So boom, boom. I like to actually just fire 2 shots from this because you can get a lot of extra buffs to your character by just maintaining this. So yeah, the damage output is actually pretty crazy here, and we'll be breaking down all the best choices for you to get the most out of this build. Now for a brief overview of the skill tree here, we'll be going into the blue skill tree, which gives us some actually very large damage buffs to specific weapons, which we'll be covering. So anything that's got a low magazine sizes really benefits here, and there's a few particular weapons that one of the best weapons in the game, which applies very well. So we got most of our points in the red skill tree with 25, and then 24 of them are actually going to go into the red skill tree, which further boosts up the same thing there, giving us a huge boost to overall damage. But the nice thing is we can actually apply some ricochet bonuses and overall damage buffs from this skill tree. Now, I will again mention that I do have a build on the Peacebreaker cannons and a ricochet build for RAFA, so I'll have that linked in the description and in the comments, as I think it's a little bit better, and you can skip over and use this skill tree with the Bullet Buddy Deluxe, because it gives you infinite ammo. But with the Apophis Lance, we got both the Project Gorgon here, which can actually do some pretty good damage and can chain to multiple enemies, or just use the regular Apophis Lance. And starting off at level 1, I would actually recommend taking the Thrill. However, we're not going to take this later because you can get yourself 50% bonus fire rate and then an additional 10% whenever we're in our overdrive. This is going to be a big DPS boost early game, so I'd recommend grabbing that and later respecking to take the Rinse, which increases our reload speed. This is actually really nice because we, again, get benefits for reloading, and furthermore, we get the Prepardo, which whenever you reload your gun, you get an action skill cooldown rate boost, which can stack, especially if you're using a gun that reloads really quickly. This becomes really nice. And furthermore, the first impression. These 3 skill trees are actually really beneficial because the first fire shot from a fully loaded magazine gets increased gun damage by 50%. This is a pretty big boost to our damage. Even if you're not using a gun that has a small magazine, you still get a pretty good shot from your first fire of your gun, and you can pair this with some other items as well that makes this even further strong. Now for our first augment here, the Sangre por Sangre, this one's actually really good because it gives you your action skill cooldown rate back whenever you use your action skill. So again, you saw there, we were able to get our action skill really quickly. I like this one quite a bit. You can use the battery subscription service, which will increase your charges by 1. And whenever you consume 4 charges of your Apophis Lance, you get increased skill damage by 50% for duration, which is nice. But I found that using this one here, just a bigger boost to overall damage. Now, once we get down here, we got another choice. We could go with the Engorged Boar. So, Apophis Lance creates increased projectile radius and projectile speed, and the Project Gorgon increase the number of chains. So this one's actually the best to choose if we're going to go down here, because we can have this actually chain to multiple enemies, and it does a good number of damage. Once we get down here, though, this is actually a really good choice. The Jacques, whenever Rafa damages an enemy with a skill, he gains a stack of Jacques. For every stack, he gets increased overdrive bonuses. This becomes pretty crazy. It's 2.5% bonuses, max stacks 20. And then with this, we get a boost to our damage, our movement speed, our duration, and some other boosts later on. This is really good, and then it pairs into the mate. Whenever overdrive ends, convert all the Jacques stacks into mate stacks, getting increased action skill cooldown rate for every stack. So yeah, obviously that becomes really quick, and we get our action skill back often. This also then takes us to our Capstone, the Project Gorgon, so our lance becomes a laser, and it passes through enemies dealing fire damage. Pressing and holding the lance causes it to deal increased damage and chain to more enemies the more it consumes, so it can spread out to multiple enemies. This becomes pretty crazy in the overall damage. Now, the permalast is kind of nice, permalast email. Whenever Rafa deals damage with an action skill to an enemy, he gains a chance to deal that damage again. You get a 25% chance. I like this, but it's not worth the 5 skill point to put into there. And I actually think it's best to go into the Peacebreaker cannons at this point, because this gives us a lot of damage. Most notably, the Sitiar there giving us a 25% boost to our gun damage. Yeah, it's hard to get better for a skill tree point that early on in the skill tree. Now, this one's pretty nice. Whenever we critically hit an enemy, action skill duration is restored. This can keep your overdrive benefits up pretty much indefinitely if you have a specific class mod. I don't think it's the absolute best, though. The Sia gives you restore shields whenever you kill an enemy, which can be nice. And this one here, whenever we activate a action skill, we receive a portion of our maximum shield capacity. So this one's actually really nice, giving us a lot of extra survivability. And I'd actually recommend this because this gives you 45% of your shields back. And with the fast ability to get our action skill up, this gives us a lot of extra survivability when we need it. And then for this second point here, the reach, you can get increased shield recharge rate and delay rate here. This one can give you a bit of extra survivability, but I also like to go with a couple points of the sea just to give you a little bit of shield restoration there. This takes us down to here. Now, getting increased skill damage can be nice. This is overall a pretty good buff. This one here gives you a grenade drop. With specific grenades, this could be good. I just don't find it to be as useful for the point you put into it. RAFA deals increased damage from all sources the fuller your shields are. This can be actually pretty nice because this gives you a huge boost to your damage whenever you get 30% damage boost, and we can replenish our shields actually pretty quickly with these here. But I actually think the Resiliencia here is the best choice because this gives us upwards of a 30% damage reduction while our overdrive is active. And overdrive is active for 12 seconds, but we can extend that even further to 24 seconds from the Apophis Lance, and even further if we were to take the Duerga here. And that's obviously really nice. This also lets us take the Vitriol, one of the other best skill trees. This gives us 55% bonus corrosive damage whenever we reload our magazine. So every time we reload, we're getting 55% bonus corrosive and 50% bonus gun damage, which is a huge boost to our damage. And I would recommend the pain reaction here. Our guns gain a chance to ricochet off enemies with status effects, which we're going to apply status effects pretty quickly. And this gives you ricochet damage based on the damage dealt. So I like to take at least 4 stacks of that for our final point. You can deal additional shock damage with the concentrated buildup, but I think that the pain reaction is a little bit better. I have the other build where you get additional ricochets and go off into this skill tree, but that's another skill tree, or another build on my channel, I should say. Now, for his specializations, these aren't the most important part, but I'm still going to cover them just because it is with build, defines your build. I am a gun. Action skill damage will benefit from the gun damage boost, which can also apply the extra boost we have to our gun damage to our action skill. This is actually pretty effective on the Apophis Lance there. Hone Mind. Action skills gain a chance to critically hit enemies, and it can also gain action skill critical hit damage boost of 50%. I think this works really nice. This also works well in the Peacebreaker cannons. Really you this is just a nice boost of 50% to our overall gun damage. Now with caffeine, I like this normally, but I find that it doesn't work actually properly. Whenever you use your Repkit, it reduces your action skill cooldown. It doesn't really work with this, so I wouldn't recommend it. I just wanted to point that one out. You can go with the Groundbreaker. This is currently bugged, but it does a lot of extra damage. So finally, I like the best defense, which will give you a plus 30% damage whenever you have your full shield or health. And we can recover our shields and health actually pretty effectively, so that's a nice boost to our damage. Although you can go with Bullet Train, which gives you some extra mobility and increased damage while you're moving around, which is really nice too. Now into our class mod, this is where things kind of get defined. I really like the Dancer because whenever overdrive is active, or whenever our action skill is active, overdrive will end basically when the action skill ends. So we have it up for 24 seconds. This allows us to get the overdrive benefits for twice as long, and the bonuses are increased by 100%, so they're doubled in effectiveness. This class mod also gives us action skill cooldown rate and bonus kinetic damage, so that is obviously really powerful. But combining this all together, this actually gives us some really nice defensive options, because with our skill tree here giving us damage reduction while in our overdrive, and overdrive only normally lasting the 12 seconds, but whenever we activate this and just hold it, this one here lasts for 24 seconds. So combining all that together, this becomes pretty effective. Now, there's just some other options here, like the All-Out Buster here with Apophis Lance gains a 25% chance to not consume charges. The more charge you use at once, the more greater the chance. And this also gives an Ordnance critical hit chance and bonus skill damage. So this one can be kind of nice as well. I just prefer getting the overdrive benefits like that. Now, for our shield, the Fireworks shield is a really fun one. You can go with the Timekeeper's new shield, but we wouldn't want those skill points into shield. This is just going to give full health. But the Fireworks is possibly my favorite overall. The Onion is another good shield if you want to use some exploding weapons that deal damage to yourself, because when you break the Onion, you get invincibility for 2 seconds. Now, for our enhancement, this is by far the best. Being able to increase your ricochets by 1. Anything that's Jacob's branded is going to be very powerful, and Jacob's licensed parts. So this is a 20% chance to grant critical hit and increase ricochets by 1. And I have a lot of guns here that have the Jacob's licensed accessories there, because that extra the ability to combine those to multiple enemies is really, really nice. It gets especially crazy with the Kickballer, which can explode multiple enemies at once. And yes, the Vivisecting Throwing Knife is possibly the best. It gives you increased critical hit chance, but you can use any grenade that you want. I think that's just the absolute best, so that's what I'm using for the current moment, but you don't have to use it. You can use whatever ones you find best. This gives us the Deadeye too. You want to get the attack here to give Deadeye. This gives you increased critical hit damage. You can stack up 5 stacks, and it does a lot. Alternatively, high caliber is nice for the ability to pierce enemies with your bullets. And we also got this one here, the triple bypass, 3 charges. It's good normally to be able to give yourself the action skill cooldown back, but unfortunately it doesn't work here. This is just still a really good one because it gives you amp, increasing the damage of your next shot by 200%. Now, putting our weapons all together, the best one is obviously going to be the Hot Slugger, single ammunition here. You reload it, you deal plus 90% damage for 10 seconds with the blazing barrel. So this one, it gives you a crazy scaling damage. And again, it gives you that 55 and 50% bonus damage on reload. I also like to go with the purple sniper rifle here. This gives us the it allows it to chain to multiple enemies, and the damage output from this is really crazy. However, it's best to utilize any of the Jacob's Lace and accessory items. This one is Jacob's itself, so it automatically will chains. So look for anything with the Jacob's Lace and accessories, or just basically anything Jacob's. I really like Lucian's flank as well, because with this, you can get a critical hit, replenish 2 ammo to the gun's magazine, and it'll bounce around to multiple enemies, and you can shoot this even faster. So this gives you crazy damage output, although I do think it's better to use like the Hot Slugger there, or reload often, use the Kickballer. And to show this all put together, so we'll activate our action skill there and shoot away at this target here. You can see it chaining around to multiple enemies, which is pretty cool. Yeah, the damage is mostly going to be coming from our gun here, because being able to add that extra damage onto each shot is very powerful, as you can see there. Especially if you can get some critical hits. I really like the Hot Slugger. I find that it has a really easy... It has a big pellet, so it's easy to land some headshots. Some other weapons can be fun on here, and you don't, again, have to use your full Apophis Lance. You can just shoot 2 charges off on the enemy, and then with that, you don't have to worry too much, because then you got the boost, big, huge boost to your overall damage. But honestly, the best weapon is probably the Kickballer. I'm not going to recommend that you use it, because it is a little bit challenging, and you can see there, it just nukes everything to the ground. So yeah, it's a little bit of a challenging weapon to use, especially because it's going to take your character out here. I would recommend using the Onion Shield if you're going to do this. Oh, we got ourselves back up and put ourselves back down. It's crazy, and yeah, you want to use the critical hit knife if you're going to utilize that, but that's obviously a pretty overpowered strategy. The Hot Slugger, you don't have to use any of that, and it's just going to be straight up strong. So I would encourage you to check out the Ricochet RAFA build that I post if you want to have the most overpowered build. But this one's really fun too, especially if you want to use the Apophis Lance, which I think is a little bit underrated, but still a very fun build. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.